said that. I was a little jealous that my name doesn't have a. I can be CJ Wheat today.
CJ Wheat? DJ.
Hang on here.
A long time ago, I was a high-level brain assassin.
Now you come back.
Trying to change the name of what I'm doing here. Oh, I hate this. Yes, I am live. There we go. So, Course Guru, Episode 2, Part 1. Of course. It's working it. Update information. Alright. So what does it say now? It's not updating. That's okay. Alright. I have a little bit of time. I'm not sure how long. It's not updating. That's okay. But I am working on something that is going to take a lot of time from me here for a little while. But I wanted to get working on some more Course Guru stuff, which I still think sounds just really pretentious. But, you know, people seem to think it works, and I'll go with it for now. You can see what all I have in here. I'll just tell you. This is a project I was going to redo one of Dario's, and he was redoing one of mine. I think he made some progress but never published mine, and I made some progress and never published his. We probably should do that again, but I think we're both busy. Wabakimi Springs, I don't know if I'll ever finish that one, but I've got it. Oaks of Westchester I started to redo. That'll probably be a 2019 project. This is the one I started for the Survivor but didn't finish. I ended up going with this one, which I always tend to pull it back in just to take pictures, and then I leave it here. This one I am going to delete because it was trash. It had a couple neat ideas, but I did it better in Sonoma Sands, so we'll just leave that. Design Syndicate Episode 1, I think you guys know what that is, so I'm not going to worry about that one. Olafson Scary's Back 9, yeah. Reap Fury, that's just a different planting idea I was trying. Elmview, you know what that is. This is garbage. I started too many courses and then never made it. This one, too. I don't know where it went. Doesn't matter. Here's Redo Cove I was bringing over. This is meh. This is meh. This one's fun, but nah. This is one I was going to redo for CLV. I started doing it, and honestly, I'm a jerk and just didn't finish it because I was tired. This was one of Elz's courses I was going to work on for him. There's Jacobs again. Where did the one I brought in here go? I'm looking for Crescent Serpent, I thought. There it is. This is the one we're going to be looking at today here. The Crescent Serpent 2018. Which has a neat little rock snake on it, if you recall. Now, I did get some specific questions on this one, so let me go look at them really fast here. It says, Brian, this is from Dale Berger, thanks for providing a service to give in-depth details on course improvements. I'm looking forward to the stream and information. Specific help needed and requests. How to get smoother and better curvature out of the fairway and rough lines. Whether I use patterns or splines, I have trouble getting the kinks and edges right. How to raise and lower large sections of area 50 to 200 yards smoothly without bumpiness that the soft flatten gives. That's just a tool thing. I don't know if we can fix that, but I'll try. How to improve views off the tee without raising tee boxes too high or having all holes hit down into a swale and then back up to the green. A lot of holes just do that. Jack Nicklaus said that golf needs to be played downhill And he's not wrong from a visual standpoint. How to improve the views of the course. I'm not good making areas outside of the holes than planting around the holes to look good, e.g. on crescent across the lake plot to the bottom, the background of some of the holes like 4, 5, 18. How to improve the views off the course. Let's see. How to improve the look of the drive on 18. Tried to make an S in the fairway, but it looks bad prior to the landing area. How to blend the retaining wall on 13 better with the rough around it while getting the water close to the green. How to make the general look pop more with a single quote. Quotation mark, sorry. How to make holes with thinner fairways look nice. In this game, wide fairways look great compared to thinner fairways, but wide fairways are boring. Take hole 1 versus hole 2. I would like the challenge of making more narrow fairways like on 2, but it just doesn't look good versus wide views. Emmeline, I did not forget. I'm not doing it right now, and you'll be just fine. So I'll tell you what, we've got a few holes that were specified. We've got 4, 5, 18, 13, and 1 versus 2. So let's start with the last thing. How to make holes with thinner fairways look nice. Take hole 1 versus hole 2, for example. Well, first let's find holes 1 and 2. So he likes the challenge of 2, but it doesn't look as good. Well, I would agree that this one does. Like if you look at hole 1, well here, let's find out. When he says wide fairway, how wide are we talking here? Let's just take a spot. Come on. This new controller, occasionally it's Bluetooth and it likes to be silly. Well, that's like 56 yards. Even up here where it gets thinner, it still is, you know, we'll just call it 25 yards, 26 yards. So that one never gets terribly thin. 2 is wide here at the 215-ish range. Come on. I don't know why Bluetooth does weird things. It just does. And that's like 53 yards, but when he's talking about getting narrower, talking about, you know, 20 yards or even 15 yards. There are a couple ways to make thinner fairways look nice. I would say that, first off, you have to design the course with thinner fairways in mind. And one of the ways to make them look better, I think, well, let's see. Right now your course is spread out over, where does it go? It goes out here, it goes across the lake, back up over here, back up and around. We're using a good portion of the plot on the course. And that's fine. I mean, you've got a bunch of water here, you've got some hills eating into it, and that's great. If you're going to make a course with thinner fairways, my strong suggestion would be to confine the course to a smaller area. In other words, you see how much space we have here between these holes. We've got, you know, 70 yards. And when you're playing this hole, I mean, you never see hole 8, and that's fine. But there's a lot of just emptiness out here. If you bring your tee boxes closer to the greens, if you put the fairways closer together, if you use either the mounds or trees to separate them more and really just confine the area in which you're designing, I think that thinner fairways will seem more natural simply because everything is more compact. I know that sounds silly, but I promise you go play some courses that are good with thinner fairways. And I would say that as much as his designs, which have from a golf standpoint improved, I think, but you look at Arctic Fury's designs, they're always beautiful, but he's very good at making things feel claustrophobic, and he makes thinner bits of fairway seem more appropriate by making it seem claustrophobic. Everything is more condensed. If you try and put thin fairways into these wide expanses, it's always going to look weird, always. The other thing I'd say from this whole standpoint specifically is pick a side to bunker. I don't bunker both sides because it really just looks a little forced. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're going to have a thinner fairway, then it needs to have some movement, which you've accomplished here. The other thing is the squiggliness of the sides. You can be squiggly, but I would prefer them to be larger squiggles. And we'll mess with this hole here shortly, and maybe try to improve what I mean by using a larger squiggle effect. But like here, this bunker, I mean, you could pull that off, flatten that out, maybe even bring the water into play, and that would automatically make this look a little different. Or you could ditch one of these. You could ditch the short one here and instead angle the fairway more from the right over to the left and almost have it wrap around. That was one other secret. When you're wanting a narrow fairway to play better, the challenge is fine, but visually it can still look wide if you angle it. Andre was designing the other day and was saying, well, I just don't like the looks of this tee shot. And I told him, angle the fairway. I mean, it was a thinner fairway, and it went straight and then had a turn and turn just like this. But I said what to do is, instead of having it straight with hazards on both sides, would be to take the fairway, and like on this one, you know, instead of starting the fairway here, I'd bring it over here, extend it out into the water a little more, and have it join with the fairway that you have here, maybe right in the middle of this bunker somewhere. And so it looks wider, and in fact you could have it pinch off here in the driving area and even widen it a little afterwards. But they don't need to be wide. You can fool them. We might do that. That's a big move on this hole, but I might try that just to show you. I'm trying to see where this goes next. So hole 3 is over here, which is kind of just a split fairway, so that's fine. Par 3. Hole 5 narrows, and you've got this section over here, which I don't understand at all, which we'll get to another time. But you've kept this narrow, and it actually works okay. And I think part of it is, actually I want to see from the tee. Where's the back tee? Again, part of it is you've fooled people. Like this bunker area here, it makes it look like the fairway might extend wider over here, and you've got it hugging a natural barrier here of this cart path. So it just feels different. It doesn't feel like it's a narrow strip as much, even though it is. 6. Yeah. 6 is a little different, but that's okay. 7 to par 3, or is it? Might be. 8. See, on 8, you've accomplished a little of that angled look by bringing this over here. But again, you've widened it out to the left, and what you could have done if you wanted to, I think it looks fine with the hump where it is, but you could have maybe even extended this bunker down here and taken the fairway all the way up here, maybe even wrapped it up tight to these bunkers and then come around and said, Leah, you can drive over here all you want, no problem, go for it. But if you want to go over here, now you're going to be challenged a little more. Just little things like that. 9. I'm going to guess 9 actually looks pretty good from the tee. Yeah, see, 9 is narrowish. Not super narrow, obviously, but it's narrower than, you know, what you had been working on. 33 yards at the widest there. And that looks fine. Where's 10 go? Over here. 10 is wide, so you probably were biting your nails on that one. See, look at the space here between 10 and 11. Look at how much real estate there is in here. And if you want to have narrower fairways, you've got to, in my opinion, use this space for something else. Either put houses or something in there a la Arctic Fury, or, you know, tighten the course itself up. 12, this would have been a good spot. Like, you're driving against, you're driving sideways into the fairway. So really the effective width here is humongous. 12, 13, 14. 14 is kind of narrow, but it's not as narrow as the player thinks from the tee, which is always good when you can fool them. 15, the curviness here is better than it was on 2. It's not quite as small and serrated looking. 16 is kind of thin, but that's okay. I like that hole though. That's a cool hole. 17 and then 18, you've got that S shape, but you said you don't think it looks good from, was it the T? Drive on 18. Yeah, and we'll mess with that as we go. But let's you said the smoothness of the lines on here. So I'm wondering if you're talking about just the jankiness here that you're working with. And I will tell you, one way to handle some of that is to just, instead of, well, here, let's see what you're working with first off. I think somebody else's, some other thing is messing with my controller, and I don't know what it is. But there's another signal that's screwing around with me. All right, why can't I select any shapes here? Yeah, something's messing with my controller. I don't know what it is. Okay, you see how you've got these big shapes in here? And a lot of people think, oh, using these big shapes is going to make it smoother. False. Number one, you're messing with a whole bunch of shapes and trying to make it look like what you want. That's fine. All right, guys, hang on a second. I got to do something about my controller or I'm going to have a fit. What is causing me problems? I wonder if it's the fact that I had a PlayStation controller up here earlier to do something else with. I don't know. I'm about to turn it off and on again, but I don't want to screw up the stream. Anyway, if you were to look at my courses or even some other people's courses that I know of, you would find a lot more shapes, and that's because what we're doing is, you see these corners you're dealing with? We take them out by using big circles and ovals or small circles and ovals and just kind of smoothing these out. Now, does that take away your heavy, rough cheat? Yes and no. Let me undo what I just did here. Because you can certainly do that little cheat with this. You just have to work a little harder at it. You've got to piecemeal it. Like so. So you've got to switch back and forth a bunch. But it's not as difficult. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. As you think. Let's see, so lay that down. Everything's just slow on here right now. I don't know why. Now, if I'm doing this on my own, I can do this pretty quickly. But for some reason, everything's going really slow. And I have a feeling it's the course itself that's causing some of the issues. Nothing wrong with the course, just sometimes the planting and the water and different things can cause the reaction time to slow down a little bit. Here, I'll just do this quickly so you can see. You can go pretty fast doing this. But you really just have to play with it to get the size right if you move it around at all. Let's see. For now, we're going to work on that first question, which it was the jankiness of the line. Sorry, it's just not responding. Like I should have already been on the circle selecting it, and I was not. Oops, that's not what I wanted. See what I mean? There. I should be going about that fast, but it's just not letting me do it. This is fine, but I'm going to round it off just so nobody can look at it and say, oh, I know what brush that was. Ha ha ha. Not that it matters, but make it look a little more natural. And already we've gotten rid of some of the squiggliness. If it's me, I'd probably even take this edge out a little bit further. Too much that way. Yeah, just bite off a little at a time here. That's better. Should be just about right. There we go. So if you want to smooth out your edges, this is the best way to do it. And I'm showing you the way that cheats on the rough. You can do this without laying the rough down at the same time. It's a little more fiddly. I mean, you have to just go a little at a time on the rough, or use splines, one of the two. If you don't want to use splines, then this is your best bet. Just come back after you're done with a hole. And it doesn't take that long to do this, but this will smooth out those curves that you're worried about a little bit. Man, it's just, my control is just laggy. Maybe it's Twitch, I don't know. Something is just lagging it out. Because either I'm getting too many button presses or not quite enough. Like this point here. This point right here on the fairway doesn't really... I can see why it's there, but I think it's too pointy. I'm just going to smooth it just a little bit. One more. Yeah, that's better. Come on. Get out there just a little bit. There we go. And I know this is kind of mind-numbing, but this is, I think, addressing your question. This corner I don't think you need to worry about. This second squiggle here, I don't know. This corner here is a little tight. And also you can see your rough is not actually uniform. That's because of the different shapes you use. Different shapes have different edges, and some of them are going to give you wider rough than others. So if you edge the fairway in circles or ovals, you don't have to worry about that. But I do this for everything. I don't just do circles to smooth out the corners. I don't use those big shapes generally. I will occasionally if it matches what I'm trying to do, but for the most part I do not. Sorry, I'm going to smooth this out just a little bit. At least get it a little more uniform for you. There you go. This corner looks good. This corner here is a little off-putting, I think. I don't think there's a good reason for it. You can do waves and corners just for aesthetic reasons, or as Griff would pronounce it, aesthetic. I think either one is appropriate, so I've always said aesthetic, so there you go. But I don't think that one really added anything. We'll have to touch the bushes there to fix the... Oh, they were auto-generated. Hey, we don't have to worry about them. Yay! And if this is not what you were talking about from a wavy edge standpoint, then please let me know. But this, I think, is what you're talking about. In fact, I would suggest, since I'm the one doing this, I'm going to straighten this edge completely out here. In fact, let's grab an oval. See if we can't get a little more aggressive with the corner. I'm not done, but if you're going to do the cheat way of fairway laying, then you gotta stay on the... You can't wait till later to do it. Even if you know you're going to lay another brush on top of it, you still have to put the rough down, otherwise it won't match. So I think from a curviness standpoint, I think that's what you were talking about. I still am not a huge fan of this point here. In fact, I'm going to take that point out because you've got it angled here. You don't need a curve on it as well, if that makes sense. You don't need this to do that because the ball's never going to stick up there anyway. And aesthetically, it doesn't help the view. It would be better looking as a line, I think. Actually bulging out a little bit. And then I'll come back and fix the back edge of it. Now, if we want to do the same thing as we did with Kessler's and just make a hole look a lot better, we certainly can, but I'm going to address your questions first before we start reworking things. Because I'm happy to do that. Not the whole course, obviously. I don't have time for all that nonsense, but just bits and pieces. But this is how to smooth it out. Get yourself an oval or a circle and work it. Yeah, come on. That's why I can't. It's work. This lag is going to drive me crazy. No, seriously, delete. Goodbye. I'm going to guess these are auto-generated down here. Yeah, they are. Okay, let's get rid of them. Perfect. Same with that one. Go away. Now, what does that do visually? I think visually losing some of those jagged edges is going to help. Yeah, I think that's what you were talking about when you said you couldn't get the edges straight. We could still do some work right in here, which we may do here in just a second. You can even smooth that out if you want, but I don't think those two are tremendously important. The curves there in the rest of the fairway are actually quite fine. They're quite natural. There's no problem there at all. That section up by the green I want to look at here in a second, but let's see, that was not very fast. I don't know what that was. Oh, and I have crowd noises. Why do I have crowd noises? Yeah, see, that not having that little point there doesn't affect anything, and this looks better as it kind of looks like, you know, oh, hey, it's designed there to kind of push you back in. Well, you've got all the tournament stuff turned on. I like it. I'm wondering, I think that was probably just a shape thing, where you couldn't quite get the shape you wanted. But having that collar of collar there around the green, I think the green itself could be smoothed out a little bit with those edges. But that's how to do the edges. Now let's look at, yeah, that's patterns. Sorry, you called them patterns. If you want to do splines to get it right, then what you're looking to do, well, here, let's just get really curvy for a second here. All right. So there, I've laid out this janky fairway. I'm going to go in here and smooth the path first. And that's going to smooth a lot of things out here. However, I've still got a couple little. One thing you can do is just grab it and just move it just slightly. And a lot of times just that slight little movement will fix things. Or in this case, make it worse. It does that sometimes too. If it does, or you don't want to move it, there are a couple ways to fix it. Again, you can either go back in with a shape like I did a minute ago and just fix it. Well, here. This will fix that edge. If I can get close enough. You know, it mostly fixes it. Or, come on. Oh my goodness. Whew. My PC is not a slow little thing. I mean, it needs to be updated, but still. Or you can come in here and lay a spline down just inside of it, and a lot of times that'll fix the outside edge. Or you can just take this and kind of move it over and fix that just by laying another spline down next to it. One suggestion I have for folks who struggle with getting the curves and that on splines correct, see if just moving this one slightly takes care of the kink. It did. It created another one, which is always fun. But a lot of times what you can do there is just come in and do a smooth corner and it'll work itself out. Or if it doesn't, again, just move it just slightly and it'll work itself out for the most part. But if you're having a lot of trouble, I've found that if you create a whole bunch of splines like this and then come back in and delete the extraneous ones. So I go to smooth path and you'll see, oh, I hate how it does that. I've got janks all over the place. So what I might do is take this one and move it closer to that one, which will fix some of the problems, but now I've got this weird thing here. If I delete this waypoint, I'm not going to lose the corner. It's just going to change the, see what I mean? It just changes how much it turns. Or here, I've got just so much going on here. I could move this or delete this one entirely and get, you know, about the same effect. Anyway, there are ways to do that. I'm just going to delete all these paths here. I find using too many splines and deleting the extras is easier. Some folks use as few splines as possible and just use the handles, and that's fine too. But anyway, that's how to get the edges. How to raise and lower larger sections smoothly without the bumpiness that soft flatten gives. Okay, well, let's go. Let's just go over here. So you said like 50 yards, so you're using like this. Well, when you use a soft brush to do a large area, you're going to get bumpiness. And that's because what that softness is doing is it's a gradient. And this isn't too bad here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just be destructive. Let me undo what I did. Let's be destructive for a second. Let's expand this whole area here and just flatten it out. All right. Now we'll come in here. We'll do a big old raise like this. Big section. Now if you get too big of a section, you'll notice like rings that go around it. Maybe it doesn't show up as much in the rough, but you end up with rings. There's not really a way around that. What I typically would do is, here, let's measure out the area since you were saying up to 200 yards. So let's measure from here to here. What I would do is not use a flatten, number one. I'd go in with a raise first. And you want to raise this whole area. Fine, great. You got a couple of ways to do it. I'm not sure how high you want to raise it. Let's just raise it 40 feet. There, I've raised it 40 feet. Now, from there, I've got some choices. If I want to do this whole area, well, let's say I want to do like a fairway. What you can do is go ahead and leave it the same. Go to the flatten and stay on the highest point and click. Go out just a little bit, click again. Some people would say hold it down. Holding it down will not have the same effect as what I'm doing here. If you stay on the highest point, maybe even flatten a couple of times, like so, there shouldn't be any bumpiness because I'm doing smaller sections at a time, but I can stay in the same height by not, basically the center of your brush is where it takes its height from when you're doing a flatten. So as long as the center of my brush is in one of the areas that was flattened by the previous one, we'll stay there and I'm not going to deal with, you know, bumpiness. Now that might be what you're talking about. It might be that you're talking about something else entirely, which this is not really affecting the look of your course, but I will try and fix it later if you want. You may be talking about how to get a smooth gradient from high to low. Like just some people are like, I don't know how to slope without, you know, how to slope things properly. Well, here, we'll do this. Let's do that and that. We'll even do something a little rougher. I'll take this over here. All right. Well, how do I get a smooth, you know, slope? The answer is you got to work at it. You can't just hold down a flatten. Some people would say take flatten, hold it down, hold down the button, and just go. Oh, hey, look, there's your bumpy we were talking about. Remember those circles I said would form? Do you see them right there in the shadow? You can see a couple little circles. That's from using the soft brush to do a raise there a minute ago. That's what those bumps are. What I would say is start here at the top, and let's say I've got, well, here, we'll do this. Create surfaces, fairway. We'll pretend like we've got some tee boxes going on here. Here's a tee box. Then we want another one that's, I don't know, right here. We got another one down over here. And we're going to have a green that's here, generic oval green. Right here. And we need to figure out some way to make this smooth and sculpt this. Well, let's do it. Flatten, bam. First, you got to figure out where you want your tee height. If this is the height you want your tee, fine. Go ahead and, you know, flatten it out a little bit. Don't just take the shape and flatten it, not yet. You can push flatten really fast like that and get a decent effect from it. So just, oop, hang on. See what I mean? And that works pretty well as your temporary first flatten. I would say too, don't always feel like it has to be at the highest point of the tee. I mean, if you want to put it in the middle and flatten part of it up and part of it down, that's probably a good way to save yourself some headaches. But see, now from this tee, it looks a little janky. Let's say I wanted to get a smooth transition from here down to that tee. How would you do it? Well, number one, the lighting on it means I'm probably going to work from up here because you can see what you're doing better. And I'm here to tell you there's no easy way to do it. You kind of have to do a little at a time. You can't just go, you can't just leave it at one height. As you do your flattening down, you kind of have to eyeball it and adjust the height just a little bit as you go. There's really no other way to do it. And if you need to go over it again, you certainly, you do. But that's already a lot smoother than what it was. But if we want it smooth from here to there, oh, did I just raise that? I did. Fastest way to get rid of that is just to go back to the default. Come out here a little bit. And what I'd say is don't worry about affecting this tee, this back tee a whole lot, because you can reflatten that. That's fine. But if you want the slope down to be smooth, then you have to pay attention not just to what's happening on the way down, but to what's happening to the land you already worked on. Like I can already see we got to go a little steeper here. But then on the next one we got to go a little less steep to kind of smooth it out. I'm sorry you can't see the heights, but I am modifying it slightly, or I did the last few times. Then down to here. And then if you want to make sure that first tee box is still flat, well, that's fine. Go flatten it. But now at least you've worked the edges out to where they're a little better. And if you want it to stay, those edges to stay that way, then, lower this tee box a little bit. That's fine. But I think from a smooth standpoint. I mean, is it perfect? No, but you'd admit that's a smooth transition down. Now take that principle and apply it to all of this. And here's what you get. You can't just say, you know, well, I'm just going to do this and flatten a couple of times and it'll be perfect. No, it won't. You got to start where you want the height to start. So let's say right in here. Then you have to decide how quickly do you want it to drop. There are also times you'd have to come at it from the bottom side as well. Now you'd think, wow, why is he going negative? Well, sometimes you have to. I can already see I'm going to have to go back, and depending on how fast I wanted this to happen, I'd have to go back and do it again from the top or the bottom. I would also say don't ever do flattening down and stop halfway through and try and go back up. Just don't do it. Just go ahead and finish flattening your way down. And if you need to redo it going up, go ahead, but don't stop halfway. If you do, you're going to end up with a step. Somewhere in the middle there will be a step that just goes down. And there's going to be nothing you can do about it. Now see, I took it back almost all the way up to 0. I'm going to try and do going forward here a little bit. And you can see you can get kind of aggressive on the sloping at times, but you really just have to eyeball it as you go. You can't just leave it on the same height and say, well, it's just going to move down the same amount each time. You know, yes and no. See, look, I just went back up and I ended up with a little step. That was a bad idea. Just finish my way down here and then I'll go back over to the edge there. All right, let me come back up here again. But you can see we're getting a smooth gradient down and to the left. Yeah, I almost had to go all the way. I almost had to start adding height. Now already we've got a nice smooth. If we wanted to do it over this way too, you certainly could. Now does that mean we're going to have to raise the T-box back up? Yeah, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. Because once you get a smooth gradient like this, you can go back and raise or lower. Do whatever you want after that. That's fine. Because it'll all happen off of the smooth hill that you created. In other words, here, let me do this again. Good job. I went too deep on one, like 2 flattens ago, but that's okay. And if you want to do it going up, you can. I will say it can be trickier going up than going down. Going up the slope is a little harder at times because there's a tendency to overdo things. But you have to realize you're trying to get your last flatten when you're going up to be the very, very top. Like you're not trying to work your way up to a point, you're trying to create that point, if that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, I apologize. Anyway, so there we've made a smooth slope down, and what we can do now if we want, like if we want this T-box to just be higher in general, that's fine. But now we're working off of the smooth gradient we have, so we can expand this and do a little bit of a raise. And then come in and do a little bit more of a raise on the back. And then do a flatten, and let's see where that puts us. Oh. Your course, Dale. Your course is lagging me. Making me upset. Now we just flattened that, and really it fits into what we've put here pretty well. So here we've got a slope going down. Now we want to come back up to that green. And again, this is all based on your initial thing of talking about bumpiness when you do large areas. Is this what you're looking for? I have no idea. But it led me here, and I've had so many questions about this before, I figured we may as well touch it. Now see, one thing, don't be concerned if that's where your green's going to be. Don't be concerned that by smoothing around it, you're going to, oh, but I wanted my green to go this way. That's fine. Go work on it later. It's totally fine. If you hump your green slightly, you know, a way that you don't want it to be at the end, that's fine. Don't sweat it. What we're doing right now are the big moves to try and get the way the land flows correct. And you can see this could be a pretty cool hole with a little bit of an up and down here, right? And without trying too hard. Hang on a second. Yes, Emmeline? I'm listening to you. Oh, that's nice. I don't know, honey. I don't know where the red is either. Anyway, hopefully that shows. I mean, I don't have really a lot of bumpiness there. And you can do the same with this big area here. Oh man, look at that lag. I literally pushed a button and it was like 3 seconds later. I am on the thing, baby, okay? Just be patient. Can I ask Aaron to stop harassing you? I don't know. Looks like that's you. I have no idea what you're talking about. But you want to smooth this down into the land. That's totally doable. Just see, I'm actually raising the land. Don't be scared to do a raise, even when you're trying to go down. Oh, shoot.